I kicked my cousin out of my wedding after he harassed my youngest sister-in-law and tried to pull off her hijab. When my family defended him, saying he had good intentions and was just joking, I went nuclear on them. Now 2 weeks later I'm living in the wreckage of a bomb I set off myself, and I desperately need to know if I'm the monster my family is making me out to be. Let me start from the beginning. I'm 28 years old and 2 weeks ago I married the absolute love of my life. My husband is 30 and his family is Arab Muslim. I'm not exaggerating when I say they are the best people I have ever known in my entire life. Growing up as essentially an only child with a complicated family situation, I never really understood what it meant to have a supportive family unit until I met them. From day one they welcomed me with open arms, no questions asked, no judgment, just pure warmth and acceptance. For the first time in my life I felt like I truly belonged somewhere. My own family? Well, that's a different story entirely. I have a half-brother from my dad's side who's much older than me and currently lives in Japan. We don't talk much, maybe a handful of times a year, but he's sweet enough that he still called to congratulate me on the wedding. My parents, on the other hand, weren't even supportive of my marriage at first. They kept pushing back against it, making snide comments, creating unnecessary drama at every turn. I finally had to tell them I'd cut them off completely if they didn't get on board, and only then did they reluctantly agree to attend. So yeah, I already knew going into the wedding that I couldn't count on them for anything except drama. That's just who they've always been. The wedding itself started out absolutely perfect. The venue was beautiful, the weather cooperated, everyone was dressed to the nines, and for a few precious hours, everyone seemed genuinely happy. Even my parents were smiling at some point, which felt like a minor miracle. My husband looked so handsome standing at the altar, and when he saw me walking down the aisle, the look in his eyes made every bit of stress leading up to that day completely worth it. His family was wonderful, my friends were there celebrating with us, and for those first few hours I actually let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, this day would go off without a hitch. Then there's my cousin Mark. He's 35 years old and, to put it bluntly, a complete walking disaster of a human being. Mark is a notorious womanizer who has 3 children with 3 different women, all of whom he abandoned without a second thought. His own father is the one sending child support money to those women because Mark refuses to take any responsibility whatsoever. He's a user, a taker, someone who moves through life leaving destruction in his wake and never looking back. But here's the thing about Mark, for my aunt, his mother, the sun absolutely shines out of his behind. She thinks he can do no wrong, that he's just misunderstood, that everyone else is too sensitive or too judgmental. She's been making excuses for his terrible behavior his entire life. My aunt had begged me to invite him to the wedding. Literally begged. And honestly, yes, I deeply regret giving in to that request. But at the time I felt trapped. I didn't want to create drama before the wedding even happened. I didn't want to deal with my aunt crying and my parents getting involved and turning the whole thing into a family crisis. So I said yes, hoping against hope that Mark would behave himself for one single day. I should have known better. I really should have known better. The night was winding down beautifully. People were dancing, laughing, taking photos, enjoying the food. I was standing with some of my husband's cousins, just soaking in the joy of the moment, when I heard a scream. Not a happy scream, not a playful shriek, but a genuine scream of distress that cut through all the music and conversation like a knife. My blood went cold immediately. I turned around and saw my youngest sister-in-law Isla, who's 19 years old, backed against a wall with nowhere to go. My cousin Mark was standing directly in front of her, towering over her, and he was absolutely drenched, dripping wet from head to toe. Isla was visibly trembling, holding an empty water glass in her shaking hands. She was the one who had screamed, and even from a distance I could see the fear written all over her face. I rushed over immediately, my heart pounding in my chest, and my other sister-in-law quickly filled me in on what had just happened. According to multiple witnesses, Mark had cornered Isla away from the crowd. He'd been drinking, though that's no excuse, and he'd started telling her that she was too pretty to be hiding under that thing, referring to her hijab. He told her she was wasting her perfect face by covering her hair. And then, the part that made my blood boil with rage, he actually reached out and tried to physically tug her hijab off her head, saying he wanted to see her beautiful hair underneath. Here's something important you need to understand about Isla. Years ago she was in a traumatic accident that left deep psychological scars. Ever since then she's been extremely uncomfortable around men, even family members. It took years of patience, therapy, and building trust before she could even hug her own father and brother without panicking. She's been working so hard to heal, to feel safe in her own skin again, and she's made incredible progress. So for her to be cornered at my wedding by my lecherous cousin, who was invading her personal space, making inappropriate comments about her appearance, and then actually trying to remove part of her clothing? She was completely traumatized all over again. She was literally shaking like a leaf. By the time I got there, my older sister-in-law, who is an absolute force of nature and doesn't take garbage from anyone, was already there getting in Mark's face. She was furious, rightfully so, and it was about to get physical. My father-in-law, who is one of the calmest, most dignified men I've ever met, stepped between them before things could escalate. He looked directly at Mark with this quiet but absolutely final authority and said, "It is time for you to leave my son's wedding." His tone left zero room for argument. I thought that would be the end of it, that Mark would slink away in shame and I could focus on consoling poor Isla and making sure she was okay. But then my aunt, Mark's mother, came storming over like a hurricane. "You can't kick him out," she shouted, her face red with indignation. "He was just joking with her. She's being too sensitive." I watched in disbelief as her story changed in real time. First it was he was complimenting her, trying to make it sound innocent and sweet. Then when that didn't work, it became he was just joking, as if harassment becomes acceptable if you slap the word joke onto it. Before I could even open my mouth to respond, before I could even process what I was hearing, my own mother piped up from behind my aunt. "I'm sorry, but she's right," my mother said, nodding along like this was all perfectly reasonable. "This is a huge overreaction. Mark didn't mean any harm. That's just how he is. You know how he is. That's just how he is." Those 5 words have been used to excuse Mark's behavior his entire life. That's just how he is, so we have to accept it. That's just how he is, so we can't hold him accountable. That's just how he is, so everyone else has to adjust their boundaries and comfort levels to accommodate him. I looked over at Isla, still trembling, still looking absolutely terrified, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. This sweet, kind, gentle girl who had welcomed me into her family without hesitation was now traumatized at my own wedding because I had ignored my better judgment and invited a predator. And here were the women who raised me, the women who should have known better, who should have protected her, standing there defending the man who had just assaulted her. Something inside me just snapped. It was like a dam breaking, like every year of frustration and disappointment and watching my family excuse terrible behavior came flooding out all at once. I turned to look directly at my aunt, and my voice came out cold and clear. "No," I said. "He needs to leave now." My aunt's eyes went wide with shock, like she couldn't believe I was contradicting her. "You are not going to disrespect your family like this," she said, her voice rising with each word. "This is completely unacceptable. You're making a scene." And that's when I completely lost it. Years of biting my tongue, of keeping the peace, of watching Mark hurt people while everyone made excuses for him, all of it came pouring out of me in a torrent I couldn't stop even if I'd wanted to. "My family?" I said, and I could hear my voice shaking with rage. "You don't get to lecture me about family. Do you want to know why your own family is broken? This is why. This blind, pathological worship of your useless, good-for-nothing son is exactly the reason you have one child who ruins every single event he attends and another daughter who hasn't spoken to you in 5 years. And you dare stand there and wonder why? You dare act confused about why your own daughter went completely no contact? It's because of this. It's because you will always choose him over the people he hurts. You will twist yourself into knots making excuses for him no matter what he does, no matter who suffers because of him. So yes, he is leaving right now and you can leave with him if you want." The entire area went dead silent. The music was still playing in the background, but everyone nearby had stopped talking, stopped moving, just standing there frozen and staring at us. You could have heard a pin drop. My aunt's face went white, then red, then white again. For a moment, she just stood there with her mouth open, and then she started crying. Not quiet tears, but loud, heaving sobs. She turned and stormed out, practically running, with Mark following behind her looking smug and unbothered as always. My parents gave me one of their classic "you are such a disappointment" looks, the kind I'd been getting my whole life, and trailed after them without another word. The rest of the wedding was strange. My husband's family rallied around Isla and around me, making sure we were both okay, but the mood had shifted. The joy had been punctured. People were still trying to have fun, but there was this heavy cloud hanging over everything. I spent the rest of the night feeling like I was moving through water, going through the motions, smiling for photos, but my mind was a million miles away. Since then, my phone has been an absolute nightmare. I've been getting texts from my parents calling me cruel, vicious, and heartless for using a family tragedy as a weapon. They're referring to my other cousin leaving, my aunt's daughter who went no contact years ago. I've gotten messages from various family members saying I went too far, that my aunt has been sending them long, anguished messages about how I broke her heart and humiliated her in public. According to them, I'm the villain of this story. I'm the one who ruined the wedding. I'm the one who needs to apologize. My husband has been absolutely incredible through all of this. He's been nothing but supportive, telling me over and over that I was just defending Isla, that my family showed their true colors, that I did exactly what I should have done. His entire family has been the same way, checking on me, making sure I know they don't blame me for any of this. But despite all that support, I still can't shake these moments of crushing guilt that hit me at random times throughout the day. Here's the thing, Mark was 100% in the wrong. There's no ambiguity about that whatsoever. I've already cut him completely out of my life. I don't want him anywhere near me or my husband's family ever again. He's a predator and I should have never invited him in the first place. I don't feel even a tiny bit of guilt about that decision. But maybe I went too far by bringing up her daughter leaving. I know that's an incredibly sore spot for my aunt, probably the most painful thing in her life, and I basically twisted the knife as hard as I could. I weaponized her pain to make a point. I feel like I dropped a nuclear bomb to win a fistfight, and now my entire family is radioactive, and I'm the one who pushed the button. So that's where I am. Sitting here 2 weeks after what should have been the happiest day of my life, wondering if I'm a good person who went too far or if I'm actually the monster my family is painting me to be. I'm lost and I desperately need perspective from people who weren't there, who don't have years of complicated family history clouding their judgment. The responses I got when I first shared my story were overwhelming in the best possible way. Thousands of people took the time to read what happened and share their thoughts, and the vast majority were incredibly supportive. Reading through those comments honestly made me cry more than once because I was so touched by the kindness from complete strangers. So many people told me that it sounded like I said something that was way overdue, that my family got off easy considering what Mark had done, that defending Isla was absolutely the right call. One person pointed out that just because Mark is always like this, or that's just the way he is, doesn't mean anyone needs to accept that behavior, and they were absolutely right. The shame should be on the two women, my aunt and my mother, for allowing and defending that behavior. Whether or not Isla has previous trauma is beside the point, though it certainly makes what happened even worse. Backing any woman into a wall is never okay. Trying to remove any part of her clothing without consent is absolutely insane. Someone desperately needs to put Mark in his place, and apparently I was the first person in his entire life willing to do it. That comment really made me sit with my feelings and examine what I'd said. And the truth is, yes, everything I said was absolutely true, and I think that's what's making me feel so awful about it. It felt like I was weaponizing the truth, using facts as ammunition specifically designed to hurt her as much as possible. The favoritism for Mark has been a thing their whole lives, for as long as I can remember. My other cousin, my aunt's daughter, was always sweet and kind, but she wasn't a great student. She struggled in school, got average grades, tried her best but just wasn't academically gifted. Mark wasn't a good student either. He barely scraped by, got into trouble constantly, never applied himself. But for some inexplicable reason, my aunt took out all her disappointment and anger over Mark's failures on her daughter instead. It was constant criticism, constant comparisons, constant reminders that she wasn't good enough. It all came to a head a few years ago during Christmas. They had a massive explosive fight where years of resentment finally came pouring out. My cousin told my aunt exactly how the favoritism had affected her, how damaging it had been to grow up watching her brother get away with everything while she got blamed for his failures. After that fight, my cousin went from low contact to completely no contact. She changed her number, blocked my aunt on all social media, and hasn't spoken to her since. It absolutely devastated my aunt. She cried for weeks, couldn't understand why her daughter wouldn't talk to her, acted like she'd been blindsided even though everyone in the family could see it coming from a mile away. But here's the saddest, most frustrating part. Losing her daughter just made my aunt cling to Mark even harder. She doubled down on defending him, on excusing his behavior, on treating him like he's the only child she has left. The lesson she took from her daughter leaving wasn't, maybe I should examine my parenting and favoritism. It was, I need to hold on to Mark even tighter because he's all I have. One commenter suggested I send a very direct message to my mother saying I was disappointed in her for defending a grown man assaulting a teenage girl, and that it made going no contact much easier. They suggested I tell her that as of that moment, my husband's family was my only family, and that she'd better hope Mark is willing to change her diaper when she gets old. Then block everyone who sided with my mother, aunt, or cousin. Reading that comment was like a light bulb going off in my head. The thing that had been eating at me was that I wanted my parents to understand that I wasn't picking a new family over an old one. This wasn't about choosing sides in some petty family dispute. It was about right and wrong, pure and simple. If I had seen Mark do that to a complete stranger I just met a minute ago, I would have stepped in. I wouldn't stand by and watch any man corner any young woman and try to pull off a piece of her clothing. The fact that it was my own family member doing it to someone I already loved just made it a million times worse. So I took the advice. I sent a very short, very direct message to my parents. I told them I was deeply disappointed that they chose to defend someone who assaulted a 19-year-old girl. I told them that their choice made my decision to go no contact much easier. I told them that my husband's family is now my only family, and that I hope they're happy they lost their only daughter to defend that train wreck of a human being. And then I blocked them. On everything. Phone, email, social media, everything. The only response I got was a predictable email from my dad before I blocked that too. He wrote that he would be ready to listen when I was ready to apologize. He'll be waiting a very long time. A lifetime, actually. A day after I made the decision to go no contact with my parents and shared an update about everything, something incredible happened. The post I'd written about my situation absolutely blew up online. Thousands and thousands of people read my story and took the time to comment, to share their own experiences, to offer support and validation. I'm not exaggerating when I say I sat at my computer with tears streaming down my face reading through the responses. Thank you. I know most of those people will never read this, will never know how much their comments meant to me, but I want to say it anyway. Thank you from the absolute bottom of my heart. You are all wonderful human beings. A few people thought my story was fake, and honestly, I get it. It does sound like something out of a movie or a TV drama. But all I can say is that this is my real life. This actually happened. And yes, I know it's obvious that I'm not in the wrong for defending Isla. She deserves the world, every bit of happiness and safety and peace, and I would defend her again in a heartbeat without a single regret. I wanted to ask for advice because when you grow up in a certain environment, when you're raised by certain types of people, it becomes incredibly hard to trust your own judgment. My parents are absolute masters of making you feel like you're the crazy one, like your perception of reality is somehow skewed. Their family motto might as well have been, if we think it's good, then it is. If we think it's bad, then it is. Your feelings don't matter. The lines between right and wrong were always blurred for me, constantly shifting based on what my parents wanted in any given moment, and unlearning that programming has been a lifelong project that I'm still working on. Meeting my husband was the turning point in my life, the moment when things started to change for the better. He's so genuinely kind, respectful, and supportive, and he showed me what a healthy family dynamic actually looks like. He showed me that love doesn't have to come with conditions and manipulation. He showed me that family should lift you up, not tear you down. And I really, truly cannot wait for a future full of him, full of our shared happiness, full of building the kind of family I always dreamed of but never had growing up. Now for the important part, the update everyone was asking about. Isla is doing so much better. I called her a few hours after I posted everything online, and the first thing she did was start apologizing. She said she felt terrible for ruining the night, that it was all her fault, that she was sorry for making a scene. I immediately shut that down as hard as I possibly could. I told her in no uncertain terms that what happened was 100% Mark's fault. His behavior was appalling, disgusting, completely inexcusable, and she did absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing. Not a single thing. She had every right to throw that water in his face. She had every right to scream. She had every right to defend herself in any way she needed to. I actually apologized to her for Mark even being there in the first place, for exposing her to someone like that at what should have been a safe, happy celebration. We talked for a long while after that, really talked in a way we hadn't before. She opened up to me about how she's been seeing a therapist for a while now to work through her trauma from the accident. She's been doing EMDR therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, all these different approaches to help her heal and feel safe again. I think it's just incredibly brave of her to do that work, to face her fears head-on instead of letting them control her life. Honestly, she's one of the strongest, most amazing people I've ever met, and I'm honored to call her my sister. While I did get some truly vile, disgusting direct messages from a few people, there are always a few horrible humans in any large group. The overwhelming majority of responses were incredible. I want to especially thank the hijabi women and Arab women who took the time to message me personally. Hearing your stories, reading about your own experiences with harassment and having your boundaries violated, understanding how you felt for Isla and understood exactly what she went through, it just made me tear up all over again. It's painful to read those stories and realize how common this kind of harassment is. How many women have had men try to remove their hijab or make inappropriate comments about their appearance or invade their personal space. But at the same time, the support I saw in those messages gave me so much hope. Hope for a world where girls everywhere can just exist, can just move through their lives without being harassed, without having their boundaries violated, without having to constantly be on guard. It's a beautiful contrast to the one guy who messaged me saying he wanted to save me and Isla from my supposedly oppressive in-laws. According to him, it was only a matter of time before my husband's family showed their true colors because, according to natural law, Muslims just get more conservative after marriage. His message was dripping with condescension, acting like he was some kind of hero coming to rescue us from our terrible situation. It was honestly just a sad reminder that some people will use any tragedy, including the very real suffering of women in places like Iran or Afghanistan, to fuel their own racism and bigotry while pretending to be progressive and caring. They don't actually care about Muslim women or our well-being. They just want to feel superior, want to confirm their prejudices, want to paint an entire religion and culture as oppressive while ignoring the good people right in front of them. Just to be absolutely crystal clear for anyone reading this, I've known my husband for 8 years. We met in college, became friends first, and fell in love slowly and naturally. I've traveled to his home country with him multiple times. I've spent holidays with his huge extended family. I've met his cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, family friends, everyone. Some of his female cousins wear the hijab. Some do not. Some are extremely religious. Some are more casual about their faith. They are all devout in their own ways, they are all happy, they are all living their lives on their own terms, and they would have a good long laugh at the idea that they're being secretly tortured by evil Muslim men. I absolutely hate it when people weaponize the very real and horrific struggles of women in oppressive regimes to push their own bigoted worldview. The women suffering under the Taliban or under Iran's morality police deserve our support and solidarity, not to have their pain used as a prop in someone else's racist fantasy. Please, I'm begging you, don't make ignorant assumptions or project weird racist ideas onto my family and my sister's lived experience. They are real people with real lives, not characters in some Islamophobic fever dream. That brings me to one last thing I really want to make absolutely clear, because I've seen some concerning comments. I've been on this earth for 28 years, and in that time I've met every kind of person imaginable. I've met people from every background, every religion, every culture, every walk of life. And here's what I've learned: bad people are just bad and good people are good. It has nothing to do with their faith. It has nothing to do with their race. It has nothing to do with where they come from or what language they speak or how they practice their religion. My cousin Mark is a bad person. Not because he's white or American or Christian or whatever other demographic box he fits into. He's bad because he repeatedly makes the choice to hurt people and face zero consequences. My aunt is enabling him. Not because of her background, but because she's chosen to prioritize her own denial over the well-being of his victims. My parents defended an assault. Not because of where they're from, but because they've spent their lives avoiding confrontation and making excuses for bad behavior. As for my parents, I've stuck with my decision. That short message I sent was the last communication we'll have until they're ready to take real accountability for their actions, which, based on my dad's response about me needing to apologize, will probably be never. And honestly, I'm okay with that. More than okay, actually. For the first time in my life, I feel free. Free from the gaslighting, free from the guilt trips and manipulation. Free from being told that my feelings don't matter, that I'm too sensitive, that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. Free from watching bad behavior get rewarded while good people suffer in silence. I have my husband. I have his incredible family who has embraced me completely. I have Isla, who I will always protect and support. I have a future ahead of me that's full of real love, real support, real family bonds that aren't conditional on me staying silent when I witness abuse. Thank you all again from the bottom of my heart. You've given me a sense of peace and validation I didn't even know I was looking for. You've helped me trust my own judgment, trust my own moral compass, trust that I did the right thing even when it was hard and painful and cost me relationships.